You guys, hello. Welcome to I Am Woke. I am your host, Emelina Calder. Today I'm going to take you through an energy reading with a Law of One. That is who I'm channeling. I asked them before I popped on stream. I was like, hey, Akashic Records or Law of One? And Law of One was like, you're channeling the Law of One. So that's who you're getting today. All right, okay. Yeah, I'm going to channel an energy update from the Law of One for this week coming up, May 27th to June 3rd. Whenever you are stumbling on this video, this is a timeless message. I'm channeling it for the week, but there are very profound energy themes that when you land on them is like specific to the quantum matrix of the information you need when you need it. So if you're here later, join me, and I'm sure there's a message here for you. If you're new to my world, my name is Emelina Calder. I am a shaman. I am a psychic medium. I am an Akashic Records reader, teacher, practitioner, guide, and I am a high-performance life coach and a personal branding coach. All the things wrapped up in one. On my channel, you could expect personal and spiritual development videos, energy updates, all the fun things. If that sounds like your vibe, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you don't miss any energy updates. What else do I want to say? If you're new and haven't heard yet, I have a free 8-part Akashic Records video training where I teach you about the Akashic Records and how to go into your own Akashic Records, which are the blueprint of your soul that allow you to change your soul DNA in a way where if you don't love your life circumstances or there are areas of your life that you'd like to improve, you can actually get into your own soul blueprint and start to work with, understand, unlock your highest potential, your higher timelines, magnetize those timelines to you in ways you don't even know to ask for, and rewrite your soul contracts around things like wealth and family and success and happiness and soulmate love so that you can actually receive what you want in your life. Of course, there's a cost. That cost is development. It is meditation. It is integration. But it's really, really beautiful work. Anyway, I have I think it's about 4 hours of video training in my free series. You can get a hold of it at IMMERSION.com/training. Also, and I'm going to start with some of these channeled messages for you guys. For those of you that don't know, I am creating a oracle card deck. All right, and this is my prototype for the deck. If you want to get in on the sacred pre-launch waitlist, go check the link in the description below. It is IMEmelina.com/oracle waitlist. Okay, the first 2 cards they are spitting out at me for this week are I Pray to Thrive. Okay, so this is a week where there's been a lot of quantum jumping for a lot of you, a lot of switching timelines in a big way, a lot of fine-tuning and stepping into new identity patterns. A lot of you might feel like little babies, because spiritually, a lot of you are little babies because you just gave birth to yourself. That's not for everyone, but I just did multiple sessions today that was the theme. That's the theme for me. So I know it'll reach you at the right time. For those of you that message is for, I pray to trust in faith. Here's the funny thing about faith. All right, it's sometimes it's hard. Okay, it's like, you know that you're really in trust when you're opting into the best parts of your life and you're taking direction from spirit. They've been channeling through me the obedience recently. I don't typically consider myself as being an obedient person, but when it comes to spirit, I am the most obedient. And it took me a long time to become that because I thought that I knew better. Anyway, this is a message for you guys around the trust in faith. I don't know who needs to hear this, but I know somebody does because it's coming through clear. You know how I became really obedient with spirit? Is I learned what it is to not follow spirit. And I learned to watch my life get smashed to a million pieces, or me get hurt, or me be in dangerous situations. And it literally shook me to my core over and over again through my 20s and also my 30s. To the point where when spirit tells me to move and it comes through with such a level of urgency and immediacy, I don't question it. I just do the thing. Now, when you pray, I pray to trust in faith. I'm like, how do I explain this? It's it takes a lot of faith to go after your desires. it takes a lot of trust to allow like the best of circumstances to meet you. More trust than it does to escape or evade negative circumstances. That shit's easy. Actually embracing and embodying the true authentic nature of your heart and what it wants and what it demands to have is borderline terrifying. It gets easier, I'll say that much. You know, I've been practicing for a while. I follow my heart to the end. But it's not easy in the way that it takes far more trust to follow your heart than it does to follow your mind. Now, it's not to say the mind isn't useful. The mind is the faithful servant that follows the heart, but it does follow the heart. Okay. I pray to see clearly my value and knowing of the subtle asks and dynamics of every exchange. Now, what's funny about this card right now is that there's a little bit of water damage on it. So some of the words are dissolved, specifically the word clearly, which I think is very ironic and very spiritual. So I pray to see clearly my value. It's to understand your core inherent value and that you don't need to beg, borrow, plead, please. Like, you can just state your needs. Literally, I swatted that out of my hand as I did it. And as you state your needs, there will be opposition. Like, it pumped out of my hand. And when there is opposition, there's almost always going to be opposition, by the way. Like, that just comes with the territory. When there is opposition, it's knowing, you want to know the subtle asks or dynamics of every exchange that is presented to you. So most of the time we're dealing with humans. There are alternate agendas. 99.9% of people hold back those agendas behind masks. People like me read them pretty easily. A lot of you that are very natural empaths can likely see and read through them. But the point is, when someone is saying something to you in any dynamic, any exchange, I always ask to never miss a trick, and I always ask to be able to see the subtle energy exchange that the other person is asking of me so that I can confirm or deny that that's something I'm willing to participate in. I'm trying to, like, I'm literally scanning my relationships. I'm like, a lot of them, there are silent things going on under the surface, and I tend to confront that either in a very direct way where I'm calling it out, or an indirect way where I'm energetically calling it out. And if you know your value and you know what's subtly being asked of you, you're conscious of the agreements that are made subconsciously as well as consciously at any point in time. And if you're conscious of the agreements, I mean, I don't know what else to say. You're conscious of them. It means you've agreed. Where we run into issues are when we have subconsciously agreed to things that we wouldn't consciously agree to if our attention was on it. And I don't like to be in any level of relationship sticky territory. So I like to be very clear, both subconsciously and consciously, about my energy exchanges and clear about my own personal value. So I know where I stand in the value and relationship to myself. Now I'm going to tune in because they threw those cards out specifically. Oh, and the one right behind it. That's so clearly, you guys need this. I pray to clearly see and know and understand my true self-worth. A lot of us have distortions around what we think we're worth, around what we're willing to receive. We settle in relationships, and this card specifically is to see, know, and understand your authentic worth so that you don't settle for anything. Like, it's, you know, when we're working with spirit, when we're working with magnetizing higher timelines, it's about being able to feel the higher timeline, which is really a feeling of joy. Identify the higher timeline, step into the higher timeline, embody the higher timeline, which is like, it's literally a vibration. It's like a movement. And then to understand that when you embrace a higher timeline, you're going to be confronted with lower level conflicts that are just like, it's not like bad. It's just like literally like every time you up level in any way, there are things, forces, people that will, the word that's coming through is bully. to varying degrees, okay? It could be not a big deal or it could be a big deal. It depends on what level you're at. That will bully you to try to make you conform to how they knew you or what they know of you or what they want from you. Ultimately, it's to lower your standards, because when you step into a higher timeline, you increase your bar, you increase your standards. And then the way spirit tests us, and it's not really that spirit is actively testing us, it's more that our higher self is working with us saying, are you willing to let go of the baggage that has been holding you into the lower timeline? Okay, you popped up into this higher timeline. That's wonderful. We're all here together for this quantum reality shift. But guess what? In order to maintain yourself in this higher timeline, in this higher vibrational frequency, you cannot bring that baggage with you. So here's a confrontation to show you whether or not you're willing to release the shit that no longer serves you. Now, they're showing me the image of a hot air balloon, okay? If you want to rise higher in a hot air balloon, you drop the sandbags out, and then you rise higher. So you might be able to maintain a certain altitude of the hot air balloon naturally based on the conditions, but once the conditions change, then you're going to need to release some baggage so that you can maintain your altitude, your flight pattern, right? Your higher timeline. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, so much energy is already moving through. So, you know, you might have a spontaneous increase where you're able to raise your vibrational frequency like almost immediately and start magnetizing better experiences to yourself, conversations, relationships, things like that. And that's cool, but to maintain it, there's going to have to be a karmic release. Consciously letting go of old patterns of thought, old patterns of behavior, old patterns of feeling, old addiction patterns, old relationships, old relationship patterns. Some of that shit comes out of the woodwork. You know, there might be something that you haven't revisited in a long time and somebody will pull that right up in front of your face for you to look at. Which is like, oh, that's familiar. Why is that familiar? Oh, that's an old thing I used to do, or that's like an old relationship pattern. Oh, I don't like that. A lot of it's being brought to the surface because a lot of you are making the shifts into higher timelines, and in order to maintain them, spirit has to shake up some of the lingering baggage that would keep you actually in a lower timeline. It's not like an assault on your senses. It's literally spirit being like, yo, you gotta let go some baggage so that you can rise, because we got some cash for you, we got some soulmate love for you, we got some soul family for you, you know, we got some nice housing for you, you know, whatever it is. We got some flowers. I don't know why I'm being saucy right now, but I feel like we need it. That's what we got there. All right, Law of One, what would you like to bring through? Maybe related to the frequency rise, if you'd like. Okay. The new theme for the week, they told me, is bliss and ecstasy. All right, these are two things I meditate on a lot. So I'm going to ask them specifically for the downloads and the codes, but they're saying specifically ecstasy, euphoria. It's being able to step into your higher vibrational frequencies, which are the highest frequencies of emotion, which essentially always translate to some level of euphoria, joy, bliss, paradise, ecstasy. I'm just going to tune in with them and see what they want to say about it. Ecstasy is the highest state of awareness where you are in the greatest allowance of what is right for you, what is a match to you, what it is you've been calling in to then enter your life in a really easy, effortless way. It'll seem like overnight miracles, a spontaneous awakening, magic, almost as if it is coming out of thin air. That magic is coming from a lot of you are doing some pretty significant quantum work, even if you don't know that you're doing it. My sessions today were all like doing huge quantum jumps. The Akashic records kept telling me, they were like, they're doing big quantum leaping, and the reason why they can handle it is because you're guiding. And I was like, oh wow, like it's really cool to hold that space for people, because a lot of quantum leaping can feel very disorienting because you're not necessarily carrying your identity through the leaps. Every time you make a leap, you're kind of shifting your identity a little bit. So sometimes you can get lost in the process. And the way that I'm able to work with it is I understand how the identity shifts and what the mind needs with each jump. The bigger the jump, the more security you need for your mind in order to make that jump. And by security, I mean just the mind's ability to rationalize. Like if you can rationalize or understand to some level what's happening energetically, the mind pretty much will jump on board and be like, okay, that's fine, that sounds good. But if you try to do too many big energy jumps without giving your mind something to chew on, like a dog bone, it tends to run amok, and then it moves over to the ego, and then the ego like throws up blockages and walls, resistance, so that you can't receive what it is that is part of the new quantum jump, because you're like too scared of leaving your current reality to go to a new reality because you don't know what that new reality looks like. I hope this is making sense. So I'm going to tap back in again. I'm going to have to go back and forth. I'm a little tired, so I just got to keep dropping in and then translating. Okay, it takes great faith to make a big quantum leap where you are collapsing time, where time is no longer the object of resistance, but is now an object of illusion. That creates a certain amount of space or tricks in the mind, because the mind thinks things should take a certain amount of time. When you are quantum leaping, you are taking a timeline and collapsing it into now, which is to embody the identity of who you would become through the process of acting in a linear fashion to get the thing that you want, but you get to have it now, and you didn't put in all those actions. So it's a little confusing of a space and territory to navigate with the mind, for what you receive in the quantum jump feels like it's not earned, because it's not really earned. The earned aspect of it is in the acceptance of your deservingness so much that you are willing to let it in immediately, which is the collapse. So what this really has to do with is your understanding of your own ego and what your personal mentality needs to feel safe in creating new lifestyle adjustments to your life, new reality adjustments, new ways of thinking that might feel wildly different than who you've been. Oh my gosh, excuse me, there's a lot of energy moving. I'm trying to tune into a frequency they have. They're like, a lot of people try to quantum jump and then get stuck. And their ego starts to, like a child, throw a temper tantrum or a fit because they weren't prepared to just receive what they wanted. That's ironic. I'm sure I've done that too, but it's like they make the quantum jump, so they had the skills and abilities, the power and the magnetism to actually collapse the time, make the leap, and bring whatever it is that they wanted to them in the present moment. And then because the ego didn't earn it in the way that is typical, in a linear fashion, in a way that makes sense, they then reject the manifestation. That's interesting. So a lot of you that do have the skill sets of doing quantum leaping work are actually good at quantum leaping, but then you reject your own abilities by rejecting the manifestations, which is to reject your ability to collapse time and to fall back into a normal human step A to step B, step C, step D linear pattern, which is significantly slower. So what are you guys really saying about that? They're saying stop thwarting your manifestations. All right. I'll be the voice. I'm just the messenger. Stop thwarting your manifestations. Too many of you are actually productively collapsing time, seeing the results, thinking that the results are in error because they didn't come in the way you thought. So then you deny the gifts that were given to you. You deny God's blessings. You deny your own abilities to create and receive those blessings. And thus you kick yourself back a timeline. So instead of occupying the highest timeline, oh, this is interesting. This is an aspect of responsibility and ethics energetically. Okay, so because if you, this is a cautionary tale for you guys, whoever needs to hear this, apparently. Instead of accepting the highest timeline, when you deny the highest timeline, you push yourself back significantly. What they're telling me is don't fuck around with the quantum unless you're ready. Because, oh, this is really interesting. It's not all just play. There's a responsibility. What they're saying to me is the responsibility is to accept the blessings, regardless of how they appear. That if you're going to be doing quantum work, if you're working with time and collapsing time, that there is a responsibility. That responsibility is to get over what you think the results should look like and accept the results as they are. As you accept results as they come to you, you must accept that that is the highest timeline, which is to select and choose the highest timeline, which is to choose the manifestations, which means they must show up. Even if it's a little like funky of a process of getting there, it must show up. And that is why it requires the most amount of trust and faith when you allow what you want to come towards you, because they're showing me the quantum manifestation process is that it frequently will not look good to the ego. When you are quantum jumping, as you collapse time, you're collapsing karma. Oh gosh, this is so interesting. When you collapse time, things look messy because you're collapsing karma, because you're removing time as the slow linear process to learn the karmic lessons. All the karma becomes due all at one time. And that's not a bad thing. It's just literally like a mess. And there's nothing wrong with a mess. Relationships are a mess. Your housing could be a mess. I don't know. What else? Your finances could be a mess. It's like whatever messy area there is. They're telling me if you've been doing this work, trust the work. It's not a process of descension. It's literally what it is to quantum collapse time. And when you collapse time, it's not a clean process. It is a clean process, and I'll see if I can explain this, but it's not a clean process. It is clean in that you're taking what would take a certain amount of time based on linear reality, and you're collapsing it, which is to resolve all the other timelines. That's clean. That's like very organized, right? They're showing me like a little cube. Like, what's that cube in those Marvel movies that they protect and shit? Like the Tesseract, is that right? It's got a lot of power. It's like they're showing me the timeline as a cube. But when you collapse that much energy into a moment, into a timeline, and you occupy it, like that Tesseract from the Marvel movies, like it carries a lot of power. It carries a lot of momentum. So if you move out of alignment, not in alignment with your spiritual self, with your higher self, you're going to hurt yourself or you're going to hurt someone. The key is when you're holding that much power, when you're working with the quantum, you have to also accept the responsibility of that you just collapsed a lot of time into you, which is to occupy a lot of really powerful energy with you, which is kind of like a nuclear reactor. That's what they're showing me. And when you're working with a nuclear reactor, as you can imagine, you have to be very gentle and very watchful and very careful over how you act with that amount of power and who you interact with, how and why. And there's a certain amount of attention, because even in relationships, they're showing me, like when you have that much quantum time being collapsed, the people with you, if they are soul partners, soul family, are jumping with you. So it's almost like an error could be a disaster is what's coming through. And then I don't want to give you guys fear, so I'm going to try to ask them to fill in the gaps here. I think the reason why they're explaining this, I can feel a few things. One, I talk about quantum work all the time. Two, I am like a pro at quantum jumping. It's just a reality. And I think I make it look easy, and I think they're explaining the process so that you guys can understand the consciousness that is necessary to see in between the lines while you are making quantum leaps. That are things that I, generally speaking, understand because I walk my walk and I do my work. But for those of you that are new, these are like the energetics and the consciousness behind it to give you access to that transmission, so that you won't walk like into a dark alley energetically without any martial arts training. I'm kind of giving you like, not quite a black belt, but you know, whatever's beneath the black belt, like I'm giving you that training energetically. Soak it up. You're welcome. All right, Law of One. What else would you like to say on the quantum leaping, other than also what's coming through is that the fact that they're giving this much education around it tells me that you guys are making a clean sweep on a previous reality in the next couple of weeks and setting an entirely new paradigm, or a new, what I would call like an ascension track or ascension curriculum. Depending on how good we are at this work and when it comes in, you know, sometimes these are midlife crises for people, sometimes it's quarter life crises, you know, whatever it's going to be. For me, it's like yearly. But anyway, it's about understanding that your soul can change its track. It can change its like trajectory of the spiritual work that you do. And when it does, that can come off like an existential crisis of some sort, because you're making decisions with your soul to create a new ascension track or curriculum of how you're going to live, think, act, and be. That tends to be heavy quantum jumping work, timeline work, because what's happening is the more timelines you guys jump into higher timelines, as you start collapsing all the lower timelines. And this stuff is pretty mathematical. Once you collapse a certain amount of lower timelines, you're then vaulted into a new, how do I explain this? The majority of your energy is now living in higher timelines. So it changes your spiritual mission. It changes your earth mission, your human mission, because you've changed your energetic expression, which is to demand a new mission, to demand a new set of ascension protocol or practices forward. That frequently feels to people like an existential crisis or like a midlife crisis and things like that, where they are switching tracks of who they've been to who they're going to now be, because they created a level of completion in an area of spiritual human curriculum. I'm just seeing your comments. Thanks, guys. Thank you for those of you that are here. Thank you for those that check in and watch the video later. You know I love all of you. All right, what else do we want to say on this? Okay, I'm just going to kind of stream through. They're saying there's a lot of steam and momentum behind your dreams. Stepping into identifying and unlocking your dreams requires a very high level of self-esteem. That self-esteem is derived by being witness to the previous version of yourself, accepting what was causing illness, disease, or addiction, allowing a certain amount of resolution to all of those different ideas from your mind and your heart, accepting your heart as it is without, how would you explain that energy, you guys? Without demonizing it, without being angry with it, without putting it down. The heart is like a puppy. So when you speak to your heart or you're identifying your heart, you don't want to be mean in any way. It's just like not constructive. The heart speaks through love. It speaks through understanding. It speaks through compassion. So when you're looking at previous versions of yourself and then you say, and then you go into a shame cycle, which is very typical for most people, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I can't believe I made that decision. Oh, that was bad of me. What you're doing is you're like flogging your heart. And then you're going to ask your heart to dream a good dream later, to run after a new version of your life, to like be motivated and occupy a new state of awareness where you're, I don't know, you like want to want something. And he's not gonna be able to do it, your heart, because you have flogged it. So they're having me remind you that when you look at the past versions of yourself and you're holding those versions of yourself in your heart and your mind, to be very, very understanding, as if you are speaking with young children, or as if you are training a puppy. You know, positive reinforcement is where you want to go with this. I had a dog years ago that I trained as a puppy. And like literally, like people would ask me, they'd be like, oh, you should do this training. And I was like, that's negative reinforcement training. There's no way in hell I'm training my puppy with negative reinforcement. Like I did all positive reinforcement training, all treat training, all clicker training. Like I worked very hard at it. And like literally that's how the heart works. It's like, how can I positively reinforce when I do things well? When I don't do things well, how can I bring myself back with a treat or like a sound, like a clicker, something that says, hey, bring your attention or your focus back here, so that you can refocus on what's meaningful to you without causing further harm, damage, shame, or outside approval. Okay, why are you guys bringing my attention there? And or where would you like to bring me forward? As you train the heart that it's safe for you to receive what you want, it will start asking for more things that you want. So if you feel like you've been stuck at an impasse and you're not sure what new goals you want to go after, or you're not sure how to train your life, change your life in a really positive direction, the first thing you need to start doing is paying attention to your heart and creating, and I'm not gonna have all the answers for you right now, but it's like creating a method of self-acceptance and reward system in your heart space for when you do hard things. You reward your heart. When you do things that your heart wants you to do, you reward your heart, because it takes just as much courage to do something that is deeply on your heart as it does to do something hard. They kind of require the same amount of energy. Doing something where you have to trust yourself fully and completely and open your heart is so fucking challenging. I think people really, really overlook it, and it can be really traumatic if it's not rewarded. Even if you get like an okay result, like if it's like the amount that you have to put your heart out on the line to like live authentically, go after your truth, speak your truth, and like be real with other humans on what you want. Everything is a negotiation. Anything in this world that you want likely comes through a human. So it's like, I don't know, like it's a process. Like they're asking me to tell you some of the things that I do, and I didn't even realize I did this in a linear way, but this is kind of how they're showing it to me. It's like, you need to reward your heart. You need to coddle your heart. When you do things that your heart asks you to do, the thing is not enough of a reward. You have to also anchor a reward on top of it. When you do things that are hard, that the heart asks you to do, you also have to reward yourself. It's the inner child, you know. If you're gonna make the inner child sit down and do their taxes and they're really flipping their lid about it, like, you better have a reward ready to go. And just like a puppy, you know, like, you have to train a puppy to walk by your side. Like, they don't do it naturally. They just like spread out in the grass and shit. You know, it's like, and I could say that's a positive thing, like walking. It's like the heart going after an income goal it wants, or a career, or a relationship. Like, you still need to train your heart that it's safe. Otherwise it won't trust you. And your mind might go after goals, but if your heart doesn't trust you, it's gonna work against you. It'll make sure you manifest that shit out of your life in fucking 2 seconds. And the heart has a lot more power than the mind. Hundreds of times more power. So it can manifest or unmanifest very quickly. So if you want to change your life and be consistent about your ability to maintain the change, you need to train your heart in a rewards system for everything that you do with your heart. Both hard things and things that you want that are also hard, because it's probably all going to be hard because we don't live in a society that trains us how to work with our hearts. We are in a society that places prioritization over the mind, over the heart, so we get rewarded for things we do for the mind, but the heart doesn't get rewarded. So that is my long way of saying that you're gonna have to reward your heart no matter what you do. Because it's like a little puppy, it's like a little child, and it needs to know that it's safe, and it doesn't know that it's safe yet because it's like a 12-week-old puppy, all right? So this is very simple, all right? I don't even care who judges me for saying this. I kind of feel like a child, but this is how I've been getting through my weeks. For me, vegan ice cream. I don't even know that I like the ice cream that much, if I could be honest, but I will say that it triggers a part of my inner child that felt safe with ice cream, because when I was growing up, like, the conditions around eating ice cream were very, very good. I don't know that I received any other love, but around ice cream, that was a good time. So anyway, when I do hard things, or even when I do things that my heart does want me to do that feel very led for, easy in some way, but require a lot of courage. I don't do this all the time, you guys, but like literally this is what they're showing me. Like, they're very human things. Like, go get an ice cream sundae. It could be that simple. What's another inner child thing? For me, it's going out into nature. Maybe that'll resonate with you guys as well. It could be as simple as going to a park or going to a beach. What else? Anything that makes you feel like you're being rewarded, like you're in play. Just think about it like that. Anything that you would reward your inner child with. Anything, if you had a child, you would reward them with. If you had a puppy, you'd give them a reward. Just start thinking about rewards. Like, I'm seeing flowers over on my floor. I'm like, oh, right. Like, I bought myself flowers when I did something hard. Sometimes I buy myself houseplants when I do something hard or something courageous. Other rewards, I'll call friends and I'll literally say, like, hey, I did this thing. It took a lot of courage for me. Can you, like, pump me up around it? Like, the inner child needs love and support in order to continue to trust you. And if you want to live the life of your dreams, it's going to require a heart-based, heart-led life. And you're not just going to get away with it without building trust with your heart. They're the slower, more emotional aspects of yourself that we often race past, with the mind. And what happens, and this happens for the far majority of people I know, is that the heart gets like stunted in some level of arrested development emotionally because it wasn't given time or the conditions to actually fully develop. So what happens is we skip over the development and then we develop the mind instead, and we just bypass the heart and go, I won't deal with that because I don't know how to deal with it. And that shows up in a lot of ways that I don't think I'm going to get into. But let me just tap in again with the Law of One. Is there anything else you want to share around this? And they're telling me nothing compares to the heart. Like the heart contains your deepest desires as well as your deepest fears. There's not just the light of the heart, there's also the shadow of the heart. And if you want to cut through your subconscious and understand why you sabotage aspects of your life, start talking to the shadow of your heart. It lives behind the heart, it's in the backside, in between the shoulder blades and the back of the heart. That's where any like heart wounding is, like betrayal, neglect, abandonment. Those aspects of yourself are just as strong in their manifestations as the forward-facing, dynamic, light side of the heart. You can work with either side. Do you guys want to give me anything specifically? Just think about doing mirror work or shadow work, journaling, getting really honest with yourself. You can breathe into your heart space for a couple of minutes and then ask your heart. They're saying to bleed on the page. So get out a pen and write everything that's hurting your heart. That's going to be your shadow heart. If you can let go of what's causing deep wounding and deep pain, and that pain, these are often open wounds, so they bleed. Like that's why they said the bleeding heart. It's bleeding. It's just constantly open, and we're constantly like trying to triage it while we're like moving through our life. If you can breathe into your heart space, connect to the deeply wounded, hurt parts of your heart, and then stream of conscious free write and journal what your heart wants to say without judgment. Allow the child to throw its tantrum. Allow the child to say what needs to be said, even if it's not popular. A lot of that might surprise you. After you do that, then you can ask your heart what it desires. What do you want? What would feel the best to me? What life do I want to live? Who do I want to live that life with? Like, and pour that art. Oh, they just switched my words. That was funny. Pour that art. It literally is what came out. I was going to say pour that heart, but they changed the words out of my mouth. I love spirit so much. You guys have no idea. Pour that art out of your heart through the page, through the words. That's the transmutation. It's being able to acknowledge the pain, acknowledge the hurt, acknowledge the wounding, and then through that pain, identify the desires, identify the clarity, the self-acceptance, and what could be. Like, what potential could you open up? What could be a new possibility for you? And that is the act of making art. Whenever my heart is stressed out, which is a lot, if I'm going to be honest, my guides tell me to make art. They've had a lot of divine interventions with me because I've had a lot of refusal around making art. Where my guides have been like, you have to make art. You have to. It is not a choice, because alternately, if you don't choose to alchemize that energy through some sort of artistic practice, whatever that's going to be for you, you choose the shadow expression. So that's a good reminder. Thank you. They're telling me, they're like, either you make art or you make shadow. Have fun. And I'm like, oh no, I know what my shadow does. Okay, I'll make some art. Like, I don't want to deal with the shadow stuff anymore. It's so painful. All right. Do you guys have anything else on this topic? I think that was the jam. I kept getting pulled to my tarot deck, so I'm going to pull a card for you guys for the week. That one fell out. Okay. What kind of dropped behind, like I realized it after, is the Nine of Swords. This is like big release, like let all the pain go. This is literally what they were channeling through about the heart. She's like cowering and has swords coming at her in her crown, in her head. This is like a spiritual attack, a psychic attack. Like there's literally a shadow beneath it. She's in the fetal position. This is the embodiment of the shadowed heart. This is what your heart feels like when you're not paying attention to it and when you're letting it stew in pain. And then they're showing me the light of the heart, right? Is the strength card. It's being able to walk calmly, confidently, have a lot of courage to do what you need to do. And then right behind it was the Empress, which is like the ability to birth your desires into this world. It's allowing yourself to be fed with love and by the world, by yourself, by others. She's holding a pomegranate. She has very little clothing on. It's like your raw, authentic, natural self. She's being like fanned with like palms. Is also obviously a very feminine card. There's a lot of fruit on this card. It's accepting the fruit of your labor. It's allowing yourself to be fed. It's functioning in the world from the place of expecting the best because you deserve it. It's like your inherent birthright of deserving all the good things and being willing to take the heat for the good things as well. Look at how big the sun is in the background. Like the Empress is running a kingdom. That doesn't not come with responsibility. You think she's like not okay with it? She's 1,000% okay with that responsibility because she's like, I'm the fucking Empress. Like, I got this. It's no skin off my back. Like, I'll take that responsibility because I know what it is to run a kingdom and I know what it is to be the kingdom and I know what it is to claim my worth and claim my desires. Again, back to the self-worth. I think those were the first few cards that I was pulling. This is like the epitome of self-worth. So yeah, I'll pull a couple more prayer cards. Doug, I'm gonna answer that. That feels relevant. I blasted my heart open with mushrooms. My third eye opened, but now I'm still crying almost every day, a year and a half later. That mushrooms can blast your heart open depending on the dosage and what you can handle. And for you to know a year and a half later still integrating is normal. For a deep spiritual experience like that. So give yourself a pat on the back. And whoever else needs to hear this, because I think you're asking this probably on behalf of a few people that need to hear that message. It's like, you're okay. Like whatever you worked through did such a level of a quantum jump. If you get a chance, go back and rewatch the stream. That it's taking your mind and your heart time to integrate, to catch up with the speed of the spiritual awakening that you gave to yourself as a blessing. Spiritual awakenings are not easy. They are frequently not easy. Oh my gosh, you guys, I try to make them as easy as possible for you guys because I know what it is for it not to be easy. And I've encountered a lot of people that have had experiences that I'm like, oh gosh, I mean, what else are you gonna do? Spirit does what spirit does, but sometimes it's just too much too soon. Be gentle with yourself. Any level of spiritual awakening, just ask consistently for it to be safe. Safe integration. Make a lot of art. Make a lot of art. Even if it's shitty art, like who cares? Make it and make it for yourself. That is my 2 cents there. Thank you guys for being on the stream with me. I pray to give the wheel over to God. God, you steer and take the wheel. Surrender, relax, enjoy the process. Ascension is not a sprinting process. It's a lifelong marathon. So start pacing yourself. I say that now, like in jest. I was sprinting for like over a decade and now I'm like, okay. Well, I guess I'm like, why was I sprinting? I'm like, well, I was sprinting to get here. I'm like pretty happy with where I'm at. I'm like, okay, can I slow this down a beat? Because it's been a lot. I pray to pay attention to the signs and see and follow them clearly. Spirit, when you're present in your reality, spirit is getting your attention all the time. Angel numbers, animals, things people say, things don't people say, feelings you get when you're around people. there are signs everywhere. Pay attention to like signs when you're walking, like certain words will jump out at me. Certain signs will go by on cars, and literally I'll be able to quickly string together a message, and I'm like, whoa, that was a big sign for me. It's like really obvious. So tune into the signs to see and follow them clearly, and you'll know that you'll be guided. Again, this requires, as I said in the beginning of the stream, the most amount of trust and faith, because you're not being given a linear process. The faith has to come internally from you seeing the sign and then believing that was the sign, and then doing what you got to do from there. So that's what I've got for you guys today. Thank you for joining me on this stream. I love and adore all of you. If you do like my vibe and want to work with me, I have a few things going on. I did open my books for a couple weeks with Akashic Records breakthrough readings. I don't do these all the time, but I've been really digging them and enjoying them with a bunch of lovely new clients. So if that's up your alley and you want to do a breakthrough session, these are quantum leap, quantum healing sessions. We do a little bit of grounding work. We usually do a spiritual up level, like it's like being given new gifts, new intuitive gifts, syncing up with your higher self in a totally new way. I am your guide through these. I am creating a safe container for your spiritual practice. There's only one place you can get that, and it is with me. You're welcome to explore anybody else and anybody else's offers, but there is one place where you get a very safe, happy breakthrough, and it is with this kiddo. So if that sounds like your vibe, the Akashic Records are the blueprint of the soul, and we go in and sync you up to your highest timelines, again, with my consciousness guiding you, which means you are going to be safe about it. There is no blowing open the explosion of a spiritual awakening in a mean way, which happens to a lot of people. It is why my transmissions come with safety. It is so effing important to me, because I know what it's not. I know what it's like to not be safe. It's literally everything around me. Like, people sprint into spiritual work. They're like, it's safe, it's energetic, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, you're about to get smacked with bricks in the face by spirit. Like, slow down and let me teach you how to create that container so that you can feel safe in your human experience and not escape out of the human experience, which causes another host of things. But anyway, if you feel guided, send me an email. I'll leave my email address below. It's wearewokeaf@gmail.com, and I can fill you in on the information with the Akashic Records breakthrough sessions while I have them open. I also do some very, very deep dive transformation programs over 6 to 18, 24 months, where I walk you step by step through your big quantum leap, your big transformation. I will leave those links in the description below as well. That's for my Transformation Accelerator program and the Phoenix program, which is an incredible personal confidence program. And I've also got 2 meditation albums that people send me emails all the time that they adore. There are the I Am Success album and the Akashic Records guided meditations. Those are all on my website, and I'll also leave some links after this stream. So much love for you guys. Enjoy your week. Happy kickoff to June. May we enter a new month with grace and prosperity and love and all the good things, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Alrighty, bye.